What was early childhood like with your parents, family dynamic, and did you have siblings?
Yeah, I got two older brothers. I'm 46. One brother's 50. The other one's 52.
Three boys.
Yeah, three boys.
Whew.
My mom lucked out on that one. So basically me and my oldest brother played soccer our whole lives. My mom was a soccer player, soccer coach. So we pretty much got raised in the soccer environment. My father was a New York City fireman and a union worker. He retired from there. So he wasn't home a lot. Like he literally worked 2 full-time jobs for 20 years so he could retire with pensions. So he was like always gone. I don't want to make like he wasn't in our life. Like he came back, every other day, took us to stuff. We still did everything as a family, but he was like, I'm going to work 100 hours a week and mom's going to raise you guys, So that was pretty much like what we were doing there. Really playing soccer and, out in the street, doing street things in New York, as a kid.
Yeah, so your parents were making sure you were involved in playing sports.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Those are good parents.
Yeah, no, my parents really were like just the average regular parents, like didn't do drugs, didn't do, my dad drinks, that's it. But yeah, they raised us like perfectly normal. You're going to go to school, you're going to do your homework. You got to come in when the lights come on the street, how it is and all that stuff. So it was like perfectly normal.
Isn't it wild how it's so much different from today? Like my parents used to just let me out, like growing up in the 90s and stuff like that. Like my parents used to just come back at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. That literally was my thing when we were young. Like my mom would say, when those lights come on, you better be in the front yard or in front of the house. Yeah. So that was it. And you can't do that no more. So
11 years old, you moved to Florida. That's right in the middle of grade school. What is that like for you? Was that a huge change for you? Was it tough fitting in, finding friends?
Well, the thing was like in New York where I was, elementary school went through 6th grade and then middle school started at 7th. So their plan was to wait for me to finish 6th grade because my other brothers had just graduated or, the middle brother just graduated. So they let me finish out. When we moved to Florida, middle school was actually 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I came right in at 7th grade. But it actually wasn't, it was kind of easy when I got there because like a lot of people had migrated to our area. The area where we moved in Spring Hill was really small. It wasn't developed yet. And all the people coming in were from New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and the other half of the town were like natives. So it was kind of like all of us were moving there at the same time. So it made it a little easier. You go to school, some people, or, hey, I just got here from New York. Hey, I just got here from Massachusetts. So it was like, cool, we're all in the same situation.
Yeah.
So it was all right.
That makes it a lot easier.
It did. It made it easier. It did.
What year is this? When you 91?
91.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys moved down there with everyone else who flocked down from the Northeast.
Yeah, they either got there right at the same time, right before us, or right after us. Right. It was that time,
What was high school like for you?
High school, again, like it was good. I started high school. I was still playing soccer at that point. I ended up after 9th grade, I quit playing. But high school was, again, like we all kind of came from middle school together. Then the other side of the town where like we didn't really know those kids, but they all grouped in a high school with us. So we all started like kind of coming together there. And the majority of us didn't know each other. Like if you didn't hang out with that person, you still were like, I know him or I know her. I know who she is, And, so it was normal, but, that's where you get into high school and it's like, let me smoke a little weed now, you start that stuff. And like, I gave up on soccer, after my first year, I was just into other stuff.
So that's interesting. They had multiple middle schools that they aggregated for high school in your area.
Well, we really only had like 2 high schools. We had a third one, but we didn't really count that. It was so far away.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 middle schools and it was like where you were zoned, you either went to this or this, but a lot of us ended up meshing together.
Yeah.
So, you ran into people you didn't know, or you might have heard their name or something. But again, everybody was like, everyone kind of knew each other. You know?
Now, during this time, are you drinking, smoking weed? Like, where are you at with
No, and I don't think in ninth grade really too much. I mean, we've had like steal a couple beers, do stuff like that, stupid stuff. But in ninth grade, it was more like just hanging out, going to football games, getting in fights, stuff like that. Normal.
Innocent fun.
Yeah, the normal stuff. And then literally like I think at the end of ninth grade, I think that's the first time I smoked weed. I smoked weed in ninth grade, and then like after ninth grade, it just took on a whole different turn.
You're in high school now. You're approaching, your senior year. What are you thinking? You're going to go to college, work right out of high school. What was kind of the plan?
Well, honestly, like when I was playing soccer, I was always like a star in soccer. When I got to high school, I wasn't the star, but I still had like that ability. Growing up in New York and stuff, I was always the star. I got awards for everything. I was just, my mom pushed me my whole life because she was a soccer coach. So it was like, and I ended up just being the best. So at first, when I got there, like right away, I get, we're interested in your son. So I'm like, all right, go to school for soccer. But I got so tied up with, really what happened was smoking weed. I literally got into this on accident. We were putting our money together, buying weed every day, smoke before school. And I had like whatever, $100 saved up. And I was like, I'm just going to buy an ounce of weed and then I'll sell it and we'll smoke for free. And my friends in the car were like, yeah, cool. Great idea. And I did. I went and bought an ounce of weed. I literally sold the whole thing the next day, dime sacks. We smoked for free. And I was like, that's just too easy. Let's go get another one. By the time 10th grade rolled around, I'm done with soccer. I'm out smoking weed every day. Now I'm drinking, I'm doing all that stuff. I used to fight all the time. It was just something since I'm a kid. Even when I was innocent trouble, I always loved to fight as a kid. My mom used to get on me. She's like, why do you fight I was just competitive to me. It was just a competitive nature. So I was getting into that whole thing. And then literally selling that ounce turned into another one and another one. And then by the time I started 10th grade, I was putting book bags of weed and going to school, and I was like the only one doing it.
And you were just selling dimes,
quarters, ounces. I mean, I started out with an ounce, but by 10th grade, I was going to school sometimes with a pound of weed in my book bag.
Whew.
And I would have sacks like, and this one's my quarters, this one's my dimes, here's an ounce. You're not really selling ounces in school.
Yeah.
But I bring them with me just in case, And I'd literally strap my bag on, go to school, smoke weed in the morning. And by the time I got to school, people were, hey, meet me in the bathroom, meet me at my car, meet me here. And I was like the high school drug dealer.
So how long until you started selling other drugs?
Probably right in 10th grade. It was mostly weed, but at that time, acid was kind of sporadic. That was coming around. So started selling a little bit of acid, which there was other people doing that. It was just like, little stuff like that. And then I actually got, I forget if it was 10th or 11th grade. I think it was, the beginning of 11th grade. I got kicked out for fighting. I got in a fight, got suspended, came back the first day, got in a fight the very first day back. And when they were breaking it up, the assistant principal grabbed me and I punched him in the face because I didn't know it was someone grabbed me while I was fighting. So they kicked me out permanently. They banned me in the county. They were like, can't go back to school in Hernando County. You got to do homeschool. So my parents were furious. I was still selling weed, people coming by after school, stuff like that. And then I got accepted into a program in another school in the county. It became like for troubled kids. And I got in there, same thing. I'm selling a little bit of weed, a little bit of acid. And I kind of just stumbled upon, I was going to pick up acid actually one night, and a guy was there with coke. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know anyone that used it. I didn't know anything. And, how it happened, I don't even remember. I grabbed a little bit. The guy was like, hey, see how, what this? I'm like, I don't know anyone that uses this stuff, but I'll take it. And I took it. I took it back. A couple people, yeah, we'll try it. And that was it. It just was on to coke. And, I was still doing other stuff, but I got right onto the coke, and then ecstasy came right behind that. And it was just, I was pretty much like the all-purpose dealer. I'll get you weed, acid, coke, and ecstasy. I can get it all. And again, at that time, I'm not saying no one else did it, but I was like for my age group, no one else was doing it.
Yeah.
You know, guys could go get little bits for whatever reason. I was able to get just whatever.
A dealer that sold everything. We had a couple of those in my town growing up. Yeah. They were the best. Yeah. And they got the most business, of course,
I had everything.
Yeah. So you're now selling pretty much whatever anyone needs at this point.
In my senior year, yeah.
In your senior year, you're going to this school. What happened? Do you finish out the year, finish out high school?
Yeah.
What do you do after high school?
When I graduated, really didn't have any plans. I was always working though. Like at the end of high school, I had worked at a car detailing place, then I worked in the back of a restaurant. So I was always keeping a job. But what happened was when I got into the restaurant cooking, everybody in restaurants does coke. You know, so I get there and I'm like kind of try to be innocent. Let me just be a cook and I'll sell drugs at the back, you know, when I get home. And then it was right. You hear people, hey, I'm trying to get an 8-ball. I'm trying to get 10 ecstasy pills. And I was like, this is where I need to be. Mm-hmm. I'm making money while I'm working. So I started doing, you know, that. And then it really I started moving quantities at that point that I never would have expected to. It went from 8 balls and all that to kilos and to 1,000 ecstasy pills and 100 pounds of weed. And it just was getting crazy to where I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? I'm making too much money. And it just, you get focused on it, you know, and you start like, you don't even start thinking about, like, I ended up quitting my job. Obviously I was like, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm not going to work for $600 a week. I make that in an hour, you know? So I just got focused on that and that became, you know, I'm a drug dealer now. Like in my mind, I always had things I wanted to do. Like I want to buy real estate. I want to open a restaurant. That was always a thing. I want to open a big restaurant. You know, I want to get businesses going, but you get so consumed with what you're doing that you don't have time for anything else, you know? And I literally, like I said, and at that point now you got a lot of other people around town that are selling stuff, but not to the level I was doing it at that age.
Were you still living at home?
No, I lived with my parents. I moved out right when I was 18. I actually moved in with my brother. He was like having some issues. So I moved in with him to kind of help him out with bills. Plus it gave me the freedom of not having to hide this from my parents because my parents weren't, like I said, they're square people. They're good people. They don't believe in this, you know. There was always questions about it. And I actually kind of got thrown out because of that. Somebody called the house one day and my dad picked up the phone and said like, hey, there's someone on the phone for you. And as soon as I picked up the phone, my dad was hanging up and the guy was like, hey, I need 30 pounds of weed. And my dad heard it and he came running in the room and grabbed me and was like, what the fuck is he talking about? And I'm trying to like lie my way out of it. He's throwing my drawers all over the room and I've got money in places. I've got weed hidden. So he told my mom, he was like, he's out. And I was like, perfect. This is what I need. I need to get kicked out, you know? So I went and stayed with my brother. And then, you know, I've always had my own place and stuff after that. But again, when I started living with my brother, I got arrested. I got arrested actually right before that for a fight. I got in a fight, got put on probation. So I moved in with my brother. And again, my brother smoked a lot of weed. He had a drug issue at one time that I really wasn't too aware of. I just thought it was weed, but me living with him, it was open season. You know, it was like he didn't care what I did.
So you're living with your brother. You're still selling coke.
Oh yeah, I'm selling more.
You're selling
now.
Everything.
Now I'm selling more.
How much money were you making?
It just depended. Like at that time, I mean, at this time, I'm just turning 19. You know, and I honestly couldn't say I was making this much a week. This much a week was sporadic. But I mean, you know, at 19, before I turned 19, I had $100,000 under my bed, you know? So it was like, I felt like I was rich at that point. You know, I'm buying cars. I had 3 cars, you know, stuff like that. Not brand new, but I bought fancy shit. You know, I'm buying nice stuff. And, yeah, so it was just kind of, like I said, when I got in with my brother, he knew what I was doing, but he didn't care. You know, it was just, he don't know quantities either. He just knows you got coke, you got weed, whatever. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Every drug dealer's story always ends up with an arrest. So you had the first arrest fighting. You were the drug dealer who got arrested for fighting. Very not common.
That was the thing. My name had already been out there at a young age. The cops knew who I was. So when I got in a fight, they were really like trying to stick it to me because they're like, we're going to get you for something. You were stupid enough to, break someone's face. And I was on probation. A guy I was dealing with, of course, I didn't know, got caught with something, came into my house and wore a wire, bought a little coke off me, a little weed, had no idea. And about a day later, I had got a phone call with someone. I had kind of some connections with some cops there too, and was just like, hey, you got hit. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, someone came in the house with a wire on. And I was like, huh? And they're like, coke and weed. And it clicked in my head right away who it was. So I was like, shit. So I cleaned my whole house out. Like, as soon as I hung up the phone, I grabbed everything I had, rushed it out of the house. I'm on probation. So I'm like, I'm going to violate. I know what's coming. And sure enough, they came. I pulled out of my house one night. I was leaving to go to my girlfriend's house at the time, or meet her at someone's house, I think. And as I was pulling out of my development, it just looked like a movie. Like, they blocked the road off. They surrounded. They got out with shotguns. I'm in my fancy car. I'm 19, and I'm just like, I know what's happening. So they're like, we're taking you back to the house. Tell us where everything's at. There's nothing there. There's nothing. So they went through the house with me. Didn't find anything because everything was cleaned out. So now they're really pissed off because this guy that had went in is like, man, he's got everything. So they booked me in for that. Now I got to call my parents to bond me out with my money. I'm telling my mom, like, hey, go get money to bond me out. But now I have to admit to my parents for the first time, like, I'm a drug dealer, So my mom came and paid my bond. She paid the bond and left, told me to walk. So I'm walking out of the jail and a friend passes by and picks me up. Now, when I bond out, though, I know I have a violation coming. When you get a violation in Florida, you typically have no bond. So I just had that little window to like get my priorities, in order. They seized my car, one of them, the one I was driving. And my probation officer called me and was just like, hey, you know what it is. We're coming. You got 10 days. I'm like, okay. So I took those 10 days. I was trying to get everything in order. And ended up going in for a little county time. I got a good lawyer, used the same lawyer, became a good friend of mine. And I stayed in county probably about 3 months, I think, fighting the seizure of the car, which I did get back. Amazingly, I shouldn't have. And I got out and they reinstated probation, gave me time served in county. And I literally, back then, you got to think this is like 97, 98. The county jail I was in, like, the phones weren't recorded. It was crazy. So before I turned myself in on the violation, I literally had set up my whole thing with 2 people to keep my drugs going. Like, here's this amount, call this number when you need this. Here's X amount of cash. That's all I was worried about. Mm-hmm. And he did. He kept it running while I was gone for 3 months or whatever it was. And literally the day I got out, I went right down to my connection and just loaded up again. The very same day. I mean, I wasn't out 24 hours. I called him and he was like, you ready? I was like, yeah, load me up. A little bit of everything. I need everything. Yeah. And he was like, man, you're crazy. And I was like, I got to go to work. Like, this is work to me. Yeah. I didn't consider, that's where the thought process comes in. I can sit here and tell you, hey, I was a drug dealer, but in my mind, I was a businessman. I treated this is my work. This is my business. This is what I do. Yeah. Young entrepreneur. Yeah, that's what I thought. You couldn't tell me no different. So the violation you go in for, and then you get out, you're back running again. Yeah. How long does that go for until you have another run-in with the cops? Until I'm 23 years old when I catch my federal case. I mean, I had that whole run. I had like little dust-ups here and there, never arrested, just, so it was 4 or 5 years. And that's when I like really just blew through everything. I was, now I'm getting trunk loads and I'm going to a whole nother level, because I I got so cocky too, and I got so comfortable. I'm like, in my mind, even though I got those convictions on my record, I beat them. You know, like I went and did county time and probation and paid some fines. Like, who gives a shit? If that's all I got to do every time to keep making this money, let's just keep doing it. You know,
walk us through what got you a federal case.
So my name had been out there for a long time, obviously. The feds had my name. You know, I was aware of it. I knew. I moved to Tampa for a while when I got out on that violation. I moved down to Tampa. In my mind, I was getting out of our town because it's little. If I can go in Tampa and I can circumvent everything through my town, I avoid it all. The problem was I was back in town every day because of my family and the girl I was dating at the time. I was with the same girl for years. So I was always back and forth with her, my family. And when I was down in Tampa, I had got involved with like a rim shop, tint shop and everything. And one of the guys one day in there told me, young kid, now these people have no clue I sell drugs. They just think I'm a rich kid, like because of how I live, how I drive. You know, when anyone would ask me something, I'd make an excuse. Oh, my dad's rich. My mom does this. My mom does it. You know, I don't work. I'm spoiled. So that's what they thought. Well, this kid one day when I pull up, he goes, man, I got pulled over the other day. I said, pulled over for what? And he shows me like across in the shopping center, there was like it was like a Wendy's or something, but it was closed down. It was vacant. He goes, yeah, there's cops in there. I said, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, they pulled me over asking about you. I said, about me? He goes, yeah. So what are they asking you? He goes, man, about drugs. Did we see you in here with drugs and everything? And I'm telling him like, no. The guy's showing me a DEA badge and now I'm on probation in Tampa at the same time too. And my probation officer was a female. She had kind of dropped hints to me. Hey, I've been told to search your house, you know, by higher ups. I always tell her you're more than welcome. Come in. There's nothing in the house. If there is, she's not going to find it. So he tells me this and I completely I'm not letting him see, but I'm panicking, you know, because I'm like, damn, they're down here now. Like here I am thinking I'm living secluded and now they're on me. I packed up everything that week and I moved back to Spring Hill because I was like, screw it. I'm going to go back to my town. I'm comfortable there. I know everybody. Everyone knows what I do there. So it made it a little actually easier. When I come to town and I'm there and I'm driving around and I go out, I'm just known as, hey, that's so-and-so. You know, everyone knows it. In Tampa, I thought I was hiding. And because now I'm no longer hiding, there's no reason to be here. So yeah, I went back to Spring Hill, moved in with a friend temporarily, and then ended up getting my own place. But and just kept going. You know, I kept going and going. In the process, I have one child. I had my daughter was born. She was about 19 months before I went away. But so I know they're on me. I know all this stuff, but at the same time, I live my life every day the same way. I'm with my daughter during the day. I never brought drugs around my kid. That was my rule. I have family life. I have business life. They don't mesh. If my daughter's with me during the day, I will not pick up my phone and talk to you about drugs. You know, the worst, hey, I got my kid. I'll call you later. And they know what it is. We're not doing this around my family. I don't bring drugs around my girlfriend. I don't bring drugs around my mother, my brother. It's just not what I did. So I'm just going through the motions, living my life. And at that, like I said, at this point, I've blown up to where I've never could have imagined, you know, like there's stories about me. People are talking about me, you know, and I go out, but I'm not a person who wants to be like in the crowds. Like I'll go in a club and I want to go in the corner. You know, if you're with me, I'm paying for everything. I'll buy bottles. We'll get the VIP, whatever, but I don't want to be, it's okay for people to know I'm here, but they're not going to be with me. If you get what I'm saying, like if you're not with me, you're not with me. Let them tell their stories and do what they're doing over there. And then, just dumb luck. Some kid that I was dealing with, I had the same group of people I dealt with for years. Like I had a close circle. I started dealing with someone that I met randomly at a pool hall. I used to play pool every night. Bad idea. Was dealing with him for months and months and months. I didn't really know him though, but we knew some of the same people. And he got caught. And when he got caught, I was calling him for days because he owed me about $60,000. It wasn't like a lot of money, but it was enough. I need my money.
Yeah, $60K is a lot of money.
Yeah, I need my money. So he finally called me back. Hey, my bad. I was fighting with my girlfriend. We went out of town, shut my phone off. Everything's good. And I got your money. I got some of your money. Can you come bring me another brick? Because I was going to New York the next day for 2 weeks. So he's like, before you go, can you drop off a brick for me? You know, and I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, you know, what am I going to do when you're gone? I'm like, there's plenty. Someone else will bring them to you. You're good. Business as usual. I'm just on vacation. And I showed up at his house and I walked in. He's counting out stacks of money. And, you know, he's telling me this thing about his girlfriend, whatever. I'm not really listening. I'm just, you know, here. I want to get out of here. I got a plane in the morning. I got to catch a flight. And as we're sitting there doing this, we're in his living room and his house is immaculate. And I'll never forget because he has a big screen TV and it's paused on like a fighting game, like saying whatever, Sega, whatever it was. I don't know at the time, but it's paused and it says 2 players. So I'm looking at it and I said, hey, who's here right now? He goes, what do you mean? Nobody. I go, why is your TV paused on 2 players? As soon as I said that, every door and window came busting open, people with masks on. Now, my initial reaction when I seen that was I'm getting robbed. I don't know why. With that many people, I was like, they're robbing me. So I jumped up and tried to run. And the guy grabbed me, you know, they threw me down. And then, you know, in my head, I instantly right then, I was like, they're killing me and taking my money. And then I realized there's like 20 people and the guy's yelling DEA, ATF. They had every alphabet boy there they could have. And I get on the ground and I'm like, fuck. You know, and I looked right at the kid that set me up and I said, you piece of shit. And he's like, I had to do it. You know, so I'm threatening them. I'm talking shit. I'm doing everything. And they're cuffing me. And, you know, if you don't shut up, we're going to shoot you. I mean, like they were getting nasty with me. And that's the guy's like, we're the DEA. Like, we don't fuck around. You're done, you know, and that's how the whole case started from there.
So you get booked, you get thrown in jail, and how long are you sitting in jail until you actually start to, I mean, you didn't go to trial, right?
No, I was before my sentencing, I was there for over 2 years.
Okay.
Trying to negotiate and stuff, but literally the night they arrested me, of course they tried to get me to cooperate right then. They said, hey, they uncuffed me, handed me my keys back. They were like, you don't have to go to jail tonight. You're going to work for us. This is how, you know, the feds work. I had heard stories about it, but you think it's stories. And the guy was like, you can stay out for years. Like, you work for me. And I'm like, well, you know, what are you talking about? He's like, you're going to go buy drugs. So he's like, you can continue to sell drugs. We don't even give a shit. Keep making money, stack money, do whatever you want, but you're going to turn people in. And we'll round them up a year from now, 2 years from now, and then we can hide you. We'll take you somewhere and hide you. And I'm like, no, it's not gonna work. Like I don't get down like that. And I got a family. Oh, we can hide everybody. No, take me to jail. So they book me in, and when they book me in, it literally hit me that like I had jewelry on, they were taking my jewelry off. The 2 agents had me in the cell and they're talking shit to me. And the guy's just like we've been on you for years. And this is literally word for word what the agent said to me. He goes, we've had your name going for years now. We got so sick of not being able to catch you. We've tapped your phones before. We've done everything. We can't get you. We literally put your case file to the bottom of the drawer and we're like, fuck him, let him make it. He ain't hurt nobody no more. Mm. He goes, when this guy told me he could get you, the agent goes, my dick got hard. He goes, I called my boss and I was like, we got him. Finally, we got this motherfucker. And he goes, and when you showed up, he's like, it's like a party for me. He said, I've been wanting you for years. So I'm like, man, that's kind of, you don't realize like these people, this is how focused they get on you. So when he's booking me in the cell and he's telling me all this stuff, you know, he looked me in the face and he goes, you know, you're not going home, right? And I was like, I'll get a bond in the morning. He's like, you're in the feds now. It's different. And I'm like, fuck you. I'll get a bond. And he told me, he's like, you are not getting bond. I promise you that. So I went for my first arraignment, denied bond. And I went back to the cell and I just remember sitting there and I had bad problems with anxiety while this was going on. Always had anxiety. I was on Xanax. I didn't take them to get high. I literally took them because I couldn't function. All my anxiety after my bond hearing just flushed out of me. Like it was gone. I remember sitting in the cell by myself looking and I was like, it's over. No more stress. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, it's weird. You're not happy. You're destroyed because they're confiscating everything I own. They're taking my life from me. But it was like all the air went out of me, and it was like a comfortable. I was like, I don't got to run no more.
Ooh.
So it was the most awkward feeling I've ever had in my life. You're completely destroyed mentally, but at the same time, you're like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, if it makes sense, mentally, I'm good.
You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot about people that are committing crimes, or even, I mean, this doesn't equate to what you went through, but even with me, with drugs, when I eventually stopped. I mean, I stopped for a reason, but when that came to an end, I was like relieved. I was like, oh, I don't have to grind every day to make money, scrounge up $500 to get high every day. You know, like obviously another level with you, but yeah, man, I hear that a lot.
It sucked because I had accumulated a shitload of money. You know, I mean, I was rich for being 23 years old. I had everything I wanted. You know, I never had to stress over it. I just do what I want. It was like, you know, you live thinking everything's easy. So I'm sitting in there and I'm like, they're taking everything. They're taking my vehicles. They're taking my cash. They're taking everything. They're breaking me. But like, I feel comfortable. Like, I don't have this anxiety. I don't have this stress anymore. You know, and a lot of it's the people you're dealing with and shit too. You see a lot of stuff, you hear stuff, you know what's going on. And it was just like, it hit me then. I was like, I'm going to prison. Like, I knew the next day I was like, I'm going to prison. I can't get out of this, you know?
What was your sentence?
I got sentenced to 270 months.
How many years is that?
It's 22 years, 8 months.
Holy, wait, for a brick of coke?
Well, this is the catch to it. They charged me with conspiracy to traffic cocaine. At first, when I got in the courtroom that day, they said they were charging me with 50 kilos, conspiracy. I ended up pleading to 11. What happened was, this guy I was dealing with, he was so stupid when he was cutting up his bricks, he was throwing wrappers in the trash. They were taking these wrappers out of his trash to get the search warrant. They put all of that onto me. The actual kilos they went and found in my house, they didn't charge. They didn't even turn those in. So they didn't turn cash in. They didn't turn kilos in. They didn't turn in. All I got charged with was the conspiracy. Now, when they did go to my house, though, I was a convicted felon. I had a firearm in my drawer. So when they arrested me at his house, I'm like 40 minutes away from my house. So they say, do you consent to search the home? And I did. I said, yeah, go in. I mean, they're getting in anyway. It's not a big deal. Go in. Do you have anything in the house? I told them no. I know they're going to find everything, but I said I do have a loaded firearm in my drawer. I never use it, never carry it. It's for safety in my house. So they ended up giving me 17 and a half years for the cocaine conspiracy, and they gave me 60 months, 5 years consecutive for the gun, and they charged me with using the gun in the commission of that crime.
Oh, my God.
Now, they didn't charge me with the gun until 8 months after I was sitting in county, and the only reason they charged me with it was because I wouldn't cooperate, and they told me that if you don't cooperate, we're going to stack more time on you. So I'm like, do whatever you're going to do. I didn't think they were going to, and they did. They stacked the gun on me.
And they didn't even give you the gun concurrent.
No, that was the thing. Technically, by law, I should have been charged with possession by a felon, and they run it concurrent in the feds.
Yeah.
But because I was playing the fuck you game, they stacked it consecutive.
Oh, my God. Okay, so you are now so with prison too, with federal prison, do you do 2/3 of your sentence?
You do 85%. Well, at that time you did 85.
Yeah. Okay. So you were slated to do 19 years-ish?
19 and some change.
Okay. Yeah. And what was it like?
Well, again, like when I got sentenced, it's like it kind of hits you. I wasn't expecting that sentence. Long story short, I had got high-powered attorneys. As soon as I hired my attorneys, I said, I'm not, get me 10 years. And he was like, you're happy with that? I said, absolutely. Get me 10 years and I'm good. He was like, done. That's easy. Prosecutor wasn't going for it. He's like, no, I want this. I want this. I want this. I walked in that day when I walked in the courtroom, I had told my family, and the way the negotiations had went with the prosecutor, we had agreed to 12 to 15. In the feds, you sign what's called a 5 to 40 plea or a 10 to life. I signed a 10 to life plea, which means essentially they can sentence you anywhere in between, but you do get a PSI that comes back and they generally go off that. Well, mine came back 22 to 27 years, somewhere on that range. My prosecutor said, oh, don't disregard that. We're going to go below. We'll agree to the 15. When we got to the court that day, he asked for 30 years. My lawyer asked for 15. The judge met in the middle. So I get sentenced, everyone in the courtroom shocked because the night before I'm like, hey, I'm getting 12 to 15 tomorrow. This is what you got to expect. My mom comes in already hysterical, thinking 12 years, holy shit. And then on top of it, they say, the feds, I say months because the feds sentence you in months. And a lot of people don't realize that. I've got people, that have responded to me. They're like, why do you always say how many months you did? And I'm like, because I'm used to hearing
calculating
that term.
it that way.
In the state, they say years. In the feds, they say when someone comes in, they're usually going to tell you, hey, I've got 360 months or whatever. So I get the sentence and I'm just like, wow, like, holy shit. I really got this amount of time. I was not expecting this. And I honestly, when she sentenced me, I kind of laughed. Not like I thought it was funny, but I was like, is this a joke? Like, you're really giving, I've never been to prison before. You're giving me almost 23 years for a nonviolent crime. And, I like kind of smirked at her. And then it hit me like the people behind me. I'm like, fuck, what are they? I don't even want to look at them right now because what am my mom thinking? My brother, like, what can you be thinking? And so I walked out of there completely like, what the fuck? And then I had to call my mom obviously that evening, and she's like, what, what happened? Like, you're not coming home. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But then, of course, early on, I'm like, I'll appeal it. I'll get another lawyer, which I did all that, waste of money. But I got humbled quickly because in my mind, as soon as I got sentenced, I'm like, you got life. You're not coming home. They sentenced me. I get to my first institution. I knew, fortunately, I know a lot of people in there from the streets, from county jail. And when I walked in there, people like, hey, what'd you get? And I had more time than my friends, but, I got, 270 months. And guys like, oh, you're short. I'm like, huh? I'm short. I got 23 years. Oh, I got 50. I've got life. Because the first institution I started at was Coleman Medium. But Coleman Medium at that time was about close to 2,000 people. Half the yard had a life sentence. So everybody you're running into in there is just, the guys are like congratulating me almost. What'd you do? Oh man, you're good. You're good.
Oh my God.
So I kind of got humbled like real quick. I'm like, fuck, man. Yeah. I got 23 years and guys are saying I did good. I'm like, this ain't normal. And then, like I said, you're talking to guys all day and you're like, I'd walk away from someone. I'm like, hey, how much time's he got? Oh, he's got 6 life sentences. What? Yeah, he's got 3 life sentences. I'm like, holy shit.
What was the craziest thing you ever saw in prison that you're allowed to share?
I mean, I'll anything you can think of, I've seen in there. Probably because I can't say certain details of certain stuff, but probably the thing that tripped me out the most was in the beginning. I seen these guys one night, the Spanish guys, it's the same yard. Somebody hit the compound, and when you're in the higher custodies and stuff like that, it's just completely different how people carry themselves. It's respectful. Guys get a bad rap for being in high custody, and I don't like that. They're like, oh, he was in a medium, he was in a pen, he's a piece of shit. No, those are some of the best people you're going to meet because they are very respectful. But if you disrespect them and you do something you're not supposed to, shit's going to another level. And I like that because it keeps things in order. So I'm out there playing cards one night in the yard, and there's like a patio, and it's lit up and stuff. And there's some Spanish guys at the table next to us, and we had heard like, yeah, there's some Spanish guy just hit the yard. He's supposed to be a big rat, whatever. I don't care. It don't have nothing to do with us. But we're sitting at the table, and one of the guys came over and like taps my buddy and tells him something. He's like, hey, just like chill for a second. I'm like, why? He's like, I don't know what's going on. And all these Spanish guys come to the table like right next to us. And there was literally a light switch that controlled the lights there. And they took a pillowcase, they threw it over this guy's head and pulled him down on the table and hit the lights and just went to stabbing them, taking turns, just ripping them everywhere. And I'm only there like a year at this time. So not even a year. I'm probably there 6 months. And they're just hearing them screaming and they're stabbing them and stabbing them. It's, and it just kept going on and on. And then finally, the COs have rushed out, everybody on the ground, everyone on the ground, and they ran us all in, and I don't think anyone ever got in trouble for it because there was no camera in that area. There was no lights, and, they locked up a bunch of people and no one ever got charged with it, so that was like my initial first time seeing that. And then I was just like, okay, like this is what this is going to be. This is the type of shit you're going to see now. Cause I mean, before that I've seen fights. I've seen a couple people get stuck, in there, but it's nothing major. It's mostly like that was like a major thing, so I was like, all right, this is how it's going, so.
Hearing a man scream for their life is another, it's just another beast, man.
Yeah. Like I've heard it a lot more. That's just the first one.
Yeah. It's disturbing. Yeah. Were you ever tested in prison?
Yeah. I mean, man, there's so much shit that happens, so many different ways you get tested by people. Like I said, fortunately for me at that yard, I did know a lot of people when I got there. So I didn't have to like go in there and really, I don't want to say prove yourself, but people vouched for me right when I got there. Hey, I know him from the street. Hey, I've heard of him. There's guys that were doing time in there that had heard about me because it was local in the area. So I already had kind of like a good reputation with people. But yeah, I mean, I've had my share in there, you really, everything at that time was race oriented too. It's not necessarily you got to be in a gang or anything like that, but you click up with your own people. I mean, that's when I got there, I was told as soon as I got in there, you can't sell with a black person, can't sell with a Spanish dude. You have to live with a white person. That's just how it is. And everyone respected it. It's not like you're being racist, like black guy. They moved me in a cell the first night with a black guy because you're just coming in. And nicest guy, as soon as I went in, he's like, yeah, you got to move in a couple days. He's like, and I'm like, no, I know they already told me, and he's like, and I mean, I talk to that guy every day when I seen him on the yard working out, but just can't live together. That's how it was. Yeah. But yeah, there was, and when I went in there, it was wild, man. People were drunk every night. There was just so much shit going on. And like I said, people were fighting and everything. It becomes so normal. You don't even really care. Like you see the shit and it's just like, it's not me. I don't care, and on the street, you got a tendency when you see a fight to watch it. In prison, when you see it, you go the other way. And if you're the idiot that's over there watching it, you're subject to some shit yourself. So anytime I see someone getting in a fight or anything, I'm going this way. It don't involve me. But yeah, like I said, when I got there, I had a few incidents with people right away. And like I said, now it's a big change because I love to fight when I was young. Like I said, it was really like a sport to me. I enjoyed it. I got there and you see how it is. And it's like, I'm in a different world now. It's not about who's tougher. This isn't like we're competing anymore. This is your life now. Like guys will take your life in here. So you can't just get in a fight for fun, or you can't just get in a fight because you feel like I'm having a bad day. I'm going to take it out on somebody because there's a 9 out of 10 chance that guy's got a knife, So you resolve a lot of shit by talking in groups, getting your friends, his friends, stuff like that. But I mean, I stood my ground. Like right when I went in, I tell people, listen, this is what it is. I ain't looking for no trouble, but if you bring it to me, I ain't scared of it. And at that time, you got to realize too, when I went in with that sentence, even though these guys are telling me this, I was still convinced in my mind, like 23 years is life. I kept saying that like, it's life. I'm never going home. So I didn't give a shit. I was like, if I kill somebody in here, who cares? I'm not going home anyway. That was my initial thinking. And, you quickly have to get out of that though. Especially I had a daughter that was coming to visit me. My mom's coming to visit me, and then you start talking to more people. And like the best advice I got from people were the guys that were doing life and all those sentences, because when they hear you have a release date, especially in your 40s, they're like, hey, tighten the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like you can't do the shit we're doing or he's doing. We're not going home. Like you're going home. There's a difference. So it starts mellowing you out. And again, I was more same thing when I got to prison. I got right back into what I was doing on the street, but in prison because I had access to everything when I got there. You know, so I was right back in the mix. So it was like being in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hustling cigarettes, weed, whatever. I could get everything. So it was like, let me get it. This is what I do, you know, and I tried to be in the business. So, you know, I wasn't focused on the fighting and none of that shit no more. I just wanted to make some money and pass time, you know.
When did you get out?
I got out in June of 21.
And what was that experience like?
Well,
is that 18 years? 19?
Yeah, 18.
18. And you got out a little early because of COVID.
Yeah, COVID. Trump signed the CARES Act, gave relief to people that were eligible. If you had anything medical. I qualified because of high blood pressure. There was so much stuff, but I got out about 19 months early. And the thing was, whatever the remainder of your sentence was, which for me was 19 months, you had to complete on house arrest. You had to go to home confinement. Now, where I started in a higher custody. Over the years, I worked my way down. I eventually got to a camp. When I got to the camp, it's not like prison. You know, when people say it is, it's not. They've never been anywhere. I got to a camp, and right when I walked in, I saw cell phones. You know, now when I left the street, I had a big Motorola phone. When I get to the camp and I walk in, they're on smartphones. I've never seen one. I've heard the stories. So I got real familiar. Luckily for me, I was there for a long time before I went home. When I walked out, I was ahead technology-wise because I knew how to operate phones, knew how to do all that stuff. But just everything's different. I mean, the town I came from, like I said, where we grew up, it was so small. It was so undeveloped. I come home, there's 4 lanes on this side, 4 lanes on this side. There's houses everywhere. There's no longer 2 middle schools. There's probably 10. You know, it's a city. So everything was like, it was just like, holy shit. Like when I pulled back into town, I'm like, this don't even look like my town, you know?
What was it like? You didn't have social media at the camp though, right?
Well,
on the phones?
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew your way around social media as well going out.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that's what I mean. I was ahead.
Okay. Well, I know you're married now, but let's earmuffs. No, I'm just kidding. His wife is here, by the way. And congratulations, man. When did you guys get married?
4 months ago.
4 months ago. Congratulations. Yeah. And this is the rise above story we're going to get to. But really quick, did you discover dating apps when you got out?
No, I didn't get onto any of that stuff. Honestly, like I just thought I don't think it's weird now. Like people do it, but to me, it just sounded weird. You know, like even when I was in prison, people were on phones. They were putting themselves on dating apps and stuff.
In prison?
Yeah.
For when they get out?
Yeah.
Or to find like sugar mamas or whatever.
Everything. Both. Wow. They got girls sending them money, writing letters. You know, and it just was weird to me. Yeah. Like I can't take advantage of people. I've never been that way. Like I said, the situation I was in when I was young, I took care of everybody. If you were with me, I'll pay for stuff. You don't got to worry about anything. So I can never ask somebody for money. And that's a big thing in prison. These guys do it. They're on pen pal lists. It's crazy. Yeah. So no, when I got out, it was like, I didn't have no interest in that. And, you know, being on home confinement for 19 months, I was really limited. Like I couldn't really go. I got to move around eventually, but I just was in touch with so many people when I came home, like the night I came home on my Facebook, because I had a Facebook set up while I was in prison. I had a friend that ran it for years. Then I took it over. I had over 400 messages the next morning when I woke up. It was just people blowing up my phone, girls and guys. It was just half of them I don't even know. They went to school with me. They heard of me. Hey, I'm glad you're home. Do you need anything? I don't even know these people.
That's actually really nice.
No, it was. And I didn't, you know, like I thought it was cool. A lot of people reached out to me. And then, like I said, some people reached out to me and just were like, basically, I know you're a good guy. Like if you need something, you know, you need clothes, you need anything. So it was kind of cool, you know?
So you're now out. Life is you're in tune with social media. You're not really wowed by anything going on except for the development in your in your hometown.
The development, and I guess how people act out here is a lot different from when I grew up. I mean, I've seen it on the news, obviously, but it's just a different world.
Yeah.
Going into
pronouns.
Yeah. That's, and like one thing is when I came home and I was on house arrest, they gave me right away a shopping pass to go get hygiene, go get all that stuff. And the very first place I walked into was a super Walmart. That was very overwhelming. I haven't been in a store in 20 years. And on top of that, I'm walking in the biggest store in our town, and it was like tunnel vision. Like when I walked in there, I was completely overwhelmed. I couldn't buy anything because I was just so pushing a cart, going up aisles. I'm like grabbing clothes, putting it in my cart. Then I get to the next one. I'm taking it out and putting it away. I think everybody's looking at me. Not paranoid, just more, they have to know I'm home type thing.
Yeah.
Or, and I literally, every aisle went down looked like this. It just looked like a tunnel. And when I got home, I remember I bought like a couple items. My mom was like, how was it? I was like, fucking horrible. Like, it was horrible. I was like, I don't know if I could do that again. Like, I got to go to Walgreens or something. I got to go to a smaller store. That wasn't the right idea.
Yeah.
So that was completely overwhelming. Parking, pulling in parking lots, all that stuff. And yeah, it was like the social media thing. I wasn't overwhelmed by it. It was just life in general otherwise, and then even seeing people when they stop in front of my house when I'm on house arrest, they don't look the same. Or you see somebody that was doing good, not doing good, or vice versa. This person wasn't doing good. Now they're doing good. And I was just like, man, this is like, I was ready for it, but I didn't know what to expect,
If you could go back and do things differently, would you do things differently? Would you not sell drugs?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I want to say no because I had a lot of fun and I enjoyed a lot of shit, but in the end, I wouldn't do it because the main thing is my daughter. Like, I missed her whole life growing up. For me, honestly, and like, prison was easy. And when I say that, I mean, like, the shit that I seen, like, it is what it is. You either get through it or you don't. For me, mentally, it was like, I know I can get through this shit. If I gotta be tough, I'll be tough. If I, whatever, I'll figure all this out. But the strain I put on my daughter, my mother, my father, my family, like, I would do anything to give that back. I don't even care about myself, honestly, because like I said, I could do it again if I had to myself. But the strain you put on other people, I couldn't do that again.
How is your relationship with your daughter?
It was really good. Me and my daughter were extremely close.
When you first got out?
No, throughout my prison sentence. We kept in touch, came to see me. I mean, we were constant. She was like my best friend. And when she got right to graduate in high school, she kind of cut me off. And we've just now reconnected. So we didn't talk for a long time, for years. And, I had thought there were certain reasons why she didn't talk to me, but in the end, it just ended up being pent up frustration. Like, we're still working through everything. I mean, we get along, we talk on the phone. I saw her, we're good now. We're going in the right direction. But, she had a lot of shit to get off her chest to me, which, it's there, but until you actually hear it, you don't understand it. Like, she understands. Like, she's like, I know why you did what you did. I get it. You didn't expect to get caught, and like she now she understands it. She had to hear it from me, but it's still to hear the pain in her voice when she's asking the questions and hearing it. It's like, if I could, I would never do that again. I just couldn't.
What is she, 22, 23?
She just turned 23. Her and my wife have the same birthday.
Okay.
Which is a coincidence. It's kind of funny.
That is very ironic.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I mean, look, you're doing the right thing, right? You're taking the actions to repair that relationship. And it's crazy. You were saying how in prison, you were telling yourself, well, I'm in jail for life. I'm in here for life. You are young, dude. You're in your 40s. You're in your mid 40s. I believe so.
Yeah.
And she has the rest. 22, 23 years old. You're still a child.
Yeah.
Like, you're a baby at that age.
Yeah.
And, I really commend you on, now listen, could have been there for 19 years that you weren't, or 18 rather, but you're taking the action and, being present, and it will get there, man. It will get there.
No, and I feel good about it now. I like the direction it's going. Like I said, she's she's cool. You know, I tell her to ask me anything she wants. I'll be honest with you. You know, she did ask me some tough questions when I seen her, stuff like that. But, you know, like when we sat down and she told me, she's like, I got a lot of questions. And I said, listen, the very least I can do is tell you the truth about everything. You're probably not going to like a lot of the answers. I said, actually, I know you're not going to like a lot of the answers, but I have to give them to you and I got to explain why. And I did. And she appreciated it, you know? And then when I came home and we weren't talking, like I buy a new car, I'm doing, she was hearing things that were making her think I'm back doing what I was doing. And she told me this. She's like, when I heard you bought this car, or, she's like, shit, my dad hasn't learned his lesson.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I just couldn't believe that you would go back to that. And I didn't, obviously. And when we talked and I started explaining to her like where my life has gone, where it's going with my wife, stuff like that, she was like ecstatic. She's like, thank God, like you're doing the right thing. It makes me feel so much better now.
Yeah.
Like she was like, she was just happy. Like, she's like, I'm glad you're married. You know what I mean? I'm glad you're doing the right thing. Like, it makes me feel better to know that you're not just out there with your friends doing stupid shit. And, so I think that's a big part of it too. Like making us, going where we're going.
What are some tools that you implemented in your life since coming home, maybe to keep yourself grounded? And you're doing the right thing now. You're in real estate?
Yeah, my wife's a realtor and I started flipping houses. So I'm investing, flipping houses. That's like my main direction. I'm taking my real estate exam the middle of January. So I've passed, I've got everything. I got to take the main exam. But that was like another thing in prison. You always hear you can't get certain licenses with certain charges, and conspiracy charge bars you from a lot of stuff. But I applied to them. They sent me back some stuff. I filled it out. I had to submit my probation stuff, everything, and they accepted me. So hopefully next month I'll be licensed.
Yeah. That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Your story is going to help a lot of people. And before we wrap up, if you could give your 23-year-old self a piece of advice. So let's say the person who is listening to this podcast right now, who's where you were at 23 years old, thinking they were untouchable, what would that piece of advice be? Well,
if they were where I was at 23, I'd tell them stop immediately, but yeah, I mean, I've always been like an intelligent person. I've never been stupid. I'm business smart. I'm street smart. I'm everything. And I just feel like if you're out there, like if you're selling drugs, especially because that's what I know, if you can get yourself successful, if you can say, hey, I can make $1 million, I can make this, I can make that, you can do it in another area. So that's one thing I didn't realize back then. I was like, you're scared to get out of selling drugs because where else can I make this money? There's plenty of places to make it. Real estate, there's anything. If you're smart, you're smart. If you know how to hustle, you know how to hustle. You just got to apply it to something else. So if someone's out there that age and they're in between or they're at that point or whatever, it's like you just got to really sit down, find something you like that interests you, think you can do, and just completely take that narrative and turn it over to this one. I mean, if you're gonna be successful, you're gonna be successful. It is what it is. Yeah. It's people that are hustling, that have the motivation, stuff like that. You apply it to it, you'll be successful. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for taking the drive over.
Yeah.
And man, I appreciate it.